The Grand Hall of the Galactic Confederation felt cold despite the hundreds of beings inside. Ambassador Jack Wilson stood tall at the speaking platform. His gray hair and lined face showed his 63 years of life. Most of those years he spent talking to aliens about Earth's problems. Today was different. Today he was not asking for help or offering deals. Today he was saying goodbye. For 300 years, humanity has been part of your community, Jack said. His voice was steady and calm. We have given our technology, our soldiers, and our trust. What have we received in return? Unfair trade deals, limited access to resources, second-class status. The alien representatives shifted in their seats. Some had many legs to shift. Others floated in tanks of special water. A few glowed with inner light. All of them seemed nervous. Earth has decided. We will no longer accept these terms, Jack continued. We have presented our requirements for continued cooperation. You have 1 solar cycle, 1 Earth day to respond. High Arbiter Zixtrel moved forward. His body looked like clear crystal, catching and bending the room's light. The human delegation has presented its terms, he announced to the hall. We will talk about them and answer within 1 solar cycle. Jack simply nodded. He turned and walked away from the platform. 5 other humans in formal blue uniforms followed him. Their faces showed nothing as they left the hall. Officer Linda Carter walked next to Jack. She was 45 with short brown hair and sharp eyes. Only when they reached their shuttle did she speak. They won't accept our terms, sir. They can't, Jack replied. He looked out the window at the huge space station where the Confederation met. That's the point. The shuttle engines started with a low hum. Soon they were flying back to the larger human ship waiting nearby. Far away, near the star Proxima, Centauri, scientist Alan Murphy looked at screens filled with numbers. He was inside a research ship that orbited the distant star. For 20 years he had worked on the same project. Now, at last, it was finished. Run the test again, he told his team. We need to be completely sure. Next to him, mathematician, Heather Voss typed quickly. She was quiet and serious, always double-checking everything. Her eyes grew wide as new numbers appeared on her screen. It works, she whispered. The void drive actually works. Alan took a deep breath. Send the confirmation. To Earth, he said. Tell them we're ready. Back on Earth, a large room filled with people fell silent. General Samantha Wright stood at the front. Maps and charts covered the walls behind her. The 50 members of the United Earth Council looked at her with serious faces. If the Confederation rejects our terms, and they will, we begin Exodus. Protocol, she said. All colonies will have 72 hours to start evacuation. And our defenses? Asked a council member. The outer colonies are protected by our weapon systems. All defense networks will be dismantled and brought with us, Samantha said firmly. We leave nothing behind. Another council member stood up. The Confederation relies on those defenses. Without them, the Hive will attack within months. Yes, Samantha agreed. Her voice was cold. They should have thought of that before they spent centuries using us while giving little in return. In his private office, United Earth President Greg Harper looked at the final reports. Every human colony was ready. Ships were prepared. The new technology was tested and working. Humanity could leave the galaxy if needed. His assistant, Ben Miller, entered with fresh data. The last colony on Titan has confirmed, sir. They can be ready in 48 hours. Greg nodded. And Project Exodus? Dr. Nancy Reeves reports all. Systems are green, Ben answered. The void drive can transport our entire population. Greg turned to look at the large window behind his desk. Earth was beautiful from space. Blue oceans, white clouds, green and brown land. For thousands of years it had been humanity's only home. Then came space travel, and for centuries humans spread through the nearby stars. But always under the Confederation's rules, always limited, always controlled. They never thought we could leave, Greg said quietly. They never believed we would find a way to escape their system. Ben stood straighter. We did more than that, sir. We found a way to leave the galaxy entirely. The next day, Jack Wilson and his team returned to the Confederation Hall. Every seat was filled. Some representatives had brought extra advisors, sensing something important was happening. High Arbiter Zixtrel's crystal form seemed less bright today. "The Confederation has considered the human terms," he announced. "We find them impossible to accept. The demands for full resource rights and independent military action would harm the balance of our community." Jack showed no surprise. He simply nodded once. "Then humanity will withdraw from the Confederation, effective immediately." A wave of noise filled the hall. Representatives turned to each other, talking quickly in dozens of languages. "You cannot withdraw," said Zixtrel. His voice was calm, but his crystal form flickered with light. "Your colonies are integrated into our systems. Your defense networks protect 16 sectors. Not anymore," Jack replied. He pulled out a small device and pressed it. "As of this moment, all human defense systems have been deactivated. All human military ships have been recalled. All human colonies have begun evacuation." Now the hall erupted in chaos. Some representatives shouted. Others sent urgent messages on their devices. "This is simply a negotiation tactic," said a blue-skinned representative. "Humans cannot leave Confederation space. There is nowhere for them to go." Jack smiled slightly. "That's where you're wrong." He turned and walked out of the hall for the final time. Behind him, the representatives of 1,000 alien species realized that something terrible was happening. Humanity was walking away. And somehow, they all knew that their fate was now sealed. One day after humanity announced its withdrawal, the real work began. Admiral Paul Green stood in the command center on Luna Base, Earth's moon. Large screens showed maps of human colonies across dozens of star systems. "Begin Exodus Protocol," he ordered. His voice was calm but firm. "All colonies have 72 hours to start evacuation." Messages went out to every human settlement. From the oldest colony on Mars to the newest mining outpost near the edge of Confederation space, humans began to pack up and leave. The aliens did not believe it at first. They thought it was a trick to get better deals. The Confederation sent messengers to the largest human colonies. On Mars colony, Dr. Kevin Rogers met with the Trelnari ambassador. The alien had 6 legs and 4 eyes on stalks that moved independently. They sat in Kevin's office as workers outside loaded equipment onto ships. "This is just a show," said the ambassador. "You cannot really leave. Where would you go?" Kevin smiled. "We're going somewhere you can't follow." The ambassador's eye stalks all turned toward Kevin. "There are no habitable worlds outside Confederation space that your ships can reach. You would die." "Our old ships, yes," Kevin agreed. "But we have new ships now. Ships that can go much further, much faster." Outside the window, a large transport lifted off, heading to orbit. The ambassador watched it go. "Even if you have better ships, there is nowhere to go," the alien insisted. "The Hive controls the space beyond our borders. They would destroy you." Kevin stood up. "I have work to finish. You should return to your people and tell them this. We offered fair terms. You refused. Now you will see what happens when humanity walks away." On the colony world of New Dakota, Governor Grace Miller supervised the evacuation of 2 million settlers. The colony had existed for 60 years. Now they were leaving in just 3 days. "Priority goes to people, then essential equipment," she told her staff. "Leave the buildings. Take anything that uses our technology." Colonial Administrator Eric Thompson worked with ship captains to organize the loading. "We have enough room for everyone and the critical systems," he reported. "But we'll have to leave some of the larger machinery." "Dismantle it," Grace ordered. "Take the key components. Nothing stays that they could study or use." Eric nodded and went back to work. Above them, more ships arrived each hour to help with the evacuation. Confederation officials watched with growing alarm. What had seemed like a bluff was clearly real. Humans were leaving. In an emergency meeting, the High Council of the Confederation discussed the crisis. "They cannot be serious," said Representative Krall of the Bovaran Empire. His large, furry body shook with emotion. "Humans have lived among us for centuries. They cannot just leave." Intelligence Officer Krill placed a data device on the table. Our reports show that every human settlement is following the same evacuation plan. They have been preparing for this for years. High Arbiter Zixtral's crystal form flickered dimly. What about their defense networks? The outer sectors rely on human weapon systems to hold back the hive. All defense systems are being dismantled and removed, Krill reported. The humans are taking everything with them. The room fell silent. For hundreds of years, humanity had built and maintained the weapons that protected many parts of the galaxy. The Confederation had happily accepted this protection while giving little in return. We must stop them, said Representative Krall. We cannot allow them to leave us defenseless. And how do you suggest we do that? Asked another representative. Their military ships are the strongest in the Confederation. We cannot force them to stay. Deep in the outer reaches of human space, the research vessel Pathfinder prepared for an important test. Captain Laura Scott looked at her crew on the bridge. Today we make history, she said. The first ship to use the void drive for actual travel. Chief Engineer Bill Davis checked the systems one last time. Power level stable. Drive is ready. Plot. Course to target Alpha, Laura ordered. Pilot Jason Cooper entered the coordinates. Target Alpha is 10 light years away. Course set. Laura took a deep breath. Engage void drive. Bill pressed the activation control. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the view outside the ship's windows changed. The stars shifted position completely. Where one star pattern had been visible, an entirely different one now appeared. Position check? Laura asked. Jason checked his instruments. We're at target Alpha. 10 light years in an instant. It worked. The crew cheered. The void drive had just taken them further in 1 second than any Confederation ship could travel in a week, and this was just the beginning. Back in Confederation space, the first reports of trouble came from the outer sectors. Without human defense systems, those areas were vulnerable. The insect-like Rekthar hive, always looking for weakness, began testing the borders. Admiral Korvex of the Arcturian Defense Force sent urgent messages to the High Council. Hive ships detected near Rigel. Our defenses cannot hold them back without human weapons. The Confederation quickly sent ships to strengthen the borders. But their technology was not as good as what the humans had provided. The Hive pushed forward, taking control of 2 small outposts. General Samantha Wright received these reports on Earth. Just as we predicted, she told President Greg Harper. Without us, their defenses are failing already. Greg looked at the latest evacuation numbers. How long until all humans are ready to leave? 3 more weeks, Samantha said. The outer colonies are already empty. Mars will be clear in 5 days. And the void drive production? On schedule. We'll have enough for all ships by the time Yane. Evacuation is complete. Greg walked to the window and looked at Earth. Soon, for the first time in thousands of years, no humans would live here. They would leave this galaxy entirely, for a new home far beyond the reach of the Confederation, or the Hive. They're already asking for our help, Samantha said, checking a message on her device. The Arcturians have sent 3 requests for military support. Greg's face showed no emotion. And our response? The same as before. We offered fair terms. You rejected them. The consequences are yours to bear. As human ships continued to leave Confederation space, the aliens finally began to understand. Humanity wasn't bluffing. They weren't negotiating. They were truly walking away. And without humanity's protection, the galaxy's fate was sealed. 3 weeks after humanity began leaving, the Hive attacked in force. Hundreds of insect-like ships crossed into Confederation space near the star Rigel. The local defense fleet tried to fight back but was quickly destroyed. Admiral Korvex of the Arcturian Defense Force called an emergency meeting of the Galactic Security Council. His blue skin looked pale as he showed the battle recordings. Without human weapon systems, we cannot stop them, he said. The Hive will reach major population centers within 1 month. The council members looked at each other with fear in their eyes, tentacles, or whatever they used to see. For centuries, the Confederation had relied on human military technology to keep the Hive away. We must ask the humans to return, said Representative Krull. Offer them whatever they want. Hi. Arbiter Zixtral's crystal form darkened. We have sent 12 messages to Earth already. They do not respond. Far away from the panic, Commander Diana Morgan stood on the bridge of the human ship Intrepid. She watched as message after message arrived from Confederation worlds. They're begging for help now, she told Admiral Paul Green. Rigel has fallen. 3 more systems are under attack. Paul nodded. Just as we expected. Continue on course. Diana looked at the star map. The human fleet was gathering near Proxima Centauri, far from Confederation space. Do you think they understand yet? Why we're leaving? They're beginning to, Paul said. For 300 years we protected them from the hive and other threats. We gave them our best technology. And what did they give us? Scraps. Leftovers. They treated us like children while using our strength. On the research vessel Pathfinder, the Void Drive team prepared for their next test. This time, they would try a much longer jump. Target is set for Andromeda Galaxy, pilot Jason Cooper announced. Over 2 million light-years away. Captain Laura Scott looked at Chief Engineer Bill Davis. Are we ready for this? Bill checked his systems one more. Power levels at maximum. The drive should work, but we've never attempted a jump this far. Laura took a deep breath. This is what we've been working toward. If we can reach Andromeda, humanity has a new home waiting. Engage Void Drive. Bill activated the system. The stars outside the window vanished. For a moment, the view showed nothing at all, just pure blackness. Then new stars appeared in patterns no human had ever seen before. Position check? Laura asked, her voice tense. Jason worked his controls quickly. Scanning. Confirmed. We're in the Andromeda Galaxy. The jump worked. The crew cheered and hugged each other. The test was successful. Humanity now had the means to leave the Milky Way entirely and start fresh in a new galaxy. Back in Confederation space, the situation grew worse every day. The Hive took control of more systems. Millions of aliens fled toward the core worlds, crowding onto whatever ships they could find. The High Council sent a special delegation to Earth, led by Zixtral himself. They arrived to find a planet in the process of being abandoned. The oceans were half empty, the water taken for the journey. Huge platforms orbited the planet, each one a temporary home for millions of humans waiting to leave. President Greg Harper agreed to meet the delegation in the city once called New Seattle. Most of the buildings were already empty. Only a small government center remained in use. We have come to accept your terms, Zixtral said. His crystal body sparkled less brightly than before. All of them. The Confederation acknowledges its mistakes, Greg shook his head. Those terms expired when you rejected them. We're not interested in new deals. But you cannot simply leave, another delegate cried out. The Hive will destroy everything. Trillions will die. That was your choice, Greg replied coldly. When you decided to use us instead of working with us as equals, humanity gave you centuries of protection while you treated us like servants. What do you want? Zixtral asked. Name your price. Anything. We don't want anything from you anymore, Greg said. We found something better. A new home far beyond your reach or the Hive's. The delegates looked confused. Zixtral's crystal form flickered. There is nowhere in this galaxy beyond our reach or the Hive's. Greg smiled. Who said anything about staying in this galaxy? As the delegation left Earth, they passed the massive ships in orbit. Each one could carry millions of people. The largest ships had once been warships, now converted to carry humans to their new home. When they returned to the Confederation capital, the delegation brought the terrible news. Humanity wasn't just leaving local space. They were leaving the galaxy entirely. Impossible, said many representatives. No species has that technology. But the evidence was clear. Human colonies were empty. Human ships were gone. And the defenses they had maintained for centuries were no longer working. Some alien species tried to copy human technology, especially their weapons. But they failed. The humans had developed their technology over centuries. It couldn't be copied quickly, especially without the humans to explain how it worked. On the edge of human space, the evacuation reached its final stages. The colony on Titan, Saturn's largest moon, was the last to be emptied. Dr. Nancy Reeves supervised as the final. Research equipment was loaded onto ships. "Is everything ready?" asked her colleague Frank Diaz. "Almost," Nancy said. "The last void drive components are being installed on the remaining ships. Within 2 days, everyone will be gone." Frank looked at the empty buildings around them. 300 years of human expansion through space, and now we're leaving it all behind. "Not all," Nancy corrected him. "We're taking what matters, our people, our knowledge, our technology. The aliens can have the empty buildings." In the distance, more ships rose from Titan's surface, heading to join the fleet gathering near Proxima Centauri. Soon humanity would make the great jump to Andromeda, and the Milky Way galaxy, which had used humanity while giving little in return, would learn what it meant to be truly alone against the dangers of space. 6 months after the first hive attack, half of the Confederation's outer systems were lost. Billions of aliens fled toward the center of the galaxy, hoping to escape the advancing hive ships. The once proud Confederation military could not stop the invasion without human weapons. High Counselor Zixtrel called together what remained of the Galactic Council. His crystal form was now dull and cracked with stress. "We have lost contact with the Arcturian homeworld," he reported. "Admiral, Corvex and the main defense fleet were destroyed 3 days ago." Representative Krall pounded the table with his large furry fist. "This is humanity's fault. They abandoned us." "No," said another representative quietly. "We drove them away. We took their protection for granted. We treated them as lesser beings while depending on their strength. Near Earth, the final stages of the great human evacuation were underway. Massive orbital platforms housed millions of people waiting for transport to the colony ships. The oceans had been largely drained, with the water and minerals extracted to support life during the long journey ahead. On one of these platforms, Officer Linda Carter watched as small shuttle ships moved between the platform and the huge colony vessels. She had been part of Ambassador Jack Wilson's team when he delivered humanity's ultimatum many months ago. "Thinking about how it all started?" asked a voice behind her. Jack Wilson walked up, looking tired but satisfied. "Hard to believe it's really happening," Linda said. "In a week, no humans will remain in this galaxy." Jack nodded. 300 years of living among the stars of the Milky Way, and now we're leaving for good. "Do you think they understand yet? The aliens?" "I think they're beginning to," Jack said. "They're learning what it means to face the hive without us. For centuries we were their shield, but they never saw us as equals." On the command ship Freedom, Admiral Paul Green reviewed the evacuation progress. "Earth is 95% evacuated. Mars and the inner colonies are clear. Titan will be empty by tomorrow." General Samantha Wright studied the reports. "And the colony ships? Are they all equipped with void drives?" "The last drives will be installed within 3 days," Paul confirmed. "All 10,000 ships will be ready for the jump to Andromeda." "And our observers? Are they in place?" Paul nodded. "Automated stations are positioned throughout Confederation space. They will record and transmit what happens after we leave. Future generations will know we made the right choice." The Confederation sent one last desperate message to humanity. It was a simple plea. "Return. Save us. We were wrong." President Greg Harper read the message in his temporary office on the largest orbital platform. He did not respond. The time for talk was long past. Instead, he called a meeting with the leaders of the Exodus: Ambassador Jack Wilson, Admiral Paul Green, General Samantha Wright, and Dr. Nancy Reeves gathered in the small room. "Are we ready?" Greg asked. Nancy nodded. "The void drive technology is fully tested. We can transport our entire population to Andromeda at once. Our scouts have identified suitable planets in the target region," Samantha added. "Worlds that can support human life, far from any known threats." "The fleet is assembled and waiting," Paul reported. 10,000 ships carrying the entire human population. Nothing essential will be left behind. Greg turned to Jack. And the Confederation's response? Exactly as we predicted, Jack said. First denial, then anger, now desperation. They never believed we could leave until it was too late. Greg looked out the window at Earth below. The blue planet looked different, now with much of its water gone. But it was still beautiful, still the original home of humanity. We're not abandoning our home out of anger, he said quietly. We're leaving because we found something better, a chance to start fresh, without the limits placed on us here. The next day, a small Confederation ship arrived at Earth. It carried High Counselor Zixitral himself, making one final attempt to convince humanity to stay. His ship approached the orbital platforms carefully. This is High Counselor Zixitral of the Galactic Confederation, he transmitted. I request a final meeting with human leadership. The response was not what he expected. This is Captain Ryan Peters of the colony ship Hope, came the reply. There is no human leadership remaining, on Earth or in orbit. The evacuation is complete. This automated message is all that remains. Zixtral's crystal form pulsed with shock. That cannot be true. Where have they gone? The automated message continued. The human species has departed this star system. This message will repeat for one standard day, then terminate. Goodbye. The Confederation ship scanned the Earth and orbital platforms. They were empty. No human life signs remained. Only automated systems continued to function, and those would soon shut down. Zixtral ordered his ship to return to Confederation space, immediately. As they traveled, they received reports of more hive attacks. 3 more major systems had fallen. The remaining Confederation forces were retreating to the core worlds. At the edge of what had once been human space, the Great Fleet gathered 10,000 ships of various sizes, from small family vessels to enormous colony ships that could carry millions. Every human from Earth and its colonies was there, ready for the greatest journey in history. On the bridge of the flagship Freedom, Admiral Paul Green addressed the fleet. For 3 centuries, humanity spread through this galaxy. We shared our knowledge and protection with the Confederation. In return, we were treated as second-class citizens. Today, we leave that past behind. Today, we start anew in Andromeda. Across, the fleet void drive systems powered up. The massive energy requirements had been the biggest challenge, but human ingenuity had solved even that problem. Each ship now had the ability to jump between galaxies, something no species in the Confederation had ever achieved. Admiral Green gave the final order. All ships, prepare for void jump. The coordinates were set. The destination was a star cluster in the Andromeda galaxy, over 2 million light-years away. Human scouts had already confirmed viable planets there, worlds where humanity could build a new civilization without the restrictions they had faced in the Milky Way. Void jump in 10 seconds, announced Commander Diana Morgan. All ships report. Ready. The countdown began. Across the fleet, humans prepared for the moment when they would leave their home galaxy forever. The Milky Way had been humanity's cradle, but it had also become their cage. Now they would be free. Void jump in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Commander Diana Morgan's voice was steady as she completed the countdown. Across the human fleet, 10,000 ships activated their void drives simultaneously. The stars around them blurred, then vanished completely. For a brief moment, the entire human race existed in the emptiness between galaxies. Then, as suddenly as they had disappeared, the ships reappeared in new space. Different stars filled the viewports. The Andromeda galaxy welcomed humanity to its new home. Captain Ryan Peters stood on the bridge of the colony ship Hope, watching as the fleet regrouped. His second-in-command, Commander Susan Garcia, checked the ship's systems. All systems operational, she reported. Life support stable. All 1.2 million colonists in stasis are safe. Ryan nodded with relief. And the rest of the fleet? Still appearing, Susan said, watching the sensors. 9,000 ships confirmed so far. The rest are still coming through. One by one, the remaining ships completed their jumps. The human fleet had made history. No species from the Milky Way had ever traveled to another galaxy before. Now, the entire human race had done it in a single moment. Admiral Paul Green addressed the fleet from the Freedom. "The jump is complete. We have arrived at our destination. Humanity has left the Milky Way behind and begun a new chapter in Andromeda." Across the fleet, people cheered. Those who were not in stasis gathered around viewports and screens to see their new home. The stars were different, but they were still stars. And among them were planets waiting for human settlement. On the command deck of the Freedom, Ambassador Jack Wilson stood quietly. At 64 years old, he had delivered humanity's ultimatum to the Confederation, and now he had lived to see the beginning of a new era. "Troubled thoughts?" asked General Samantha Wright, joining him at the viewport. "Not troubled," Jack replied. "Just thoughtful. I wonder what's happening back there now that we're gone." In his private quarters, Jack recorded what would be his final official log entry as humanity's ambassador. "We gave them every opportunity to treat us as equals. We defended their worlds, shared our medicines, helped build their economies. In return, they exploited our resources and dismissed our concerns." He paused, looking at the unfamiliar stars of Andromeda. "They never believed we could leave, and now they cannot believe we would. History will record that when humanity walked away, we did not do so in anger, but in disappointment." Back in the Milky Way, disaster continued to unfold for the Confederation. Without human defense systems, more worlds fell to the hive each week. The once proud galactic government collapsed into separate groups trying to save themselves. Hi. Counselor Zixtrell stood in the ruins of what had been the Grand Confederation capital. His crystal form was dull and broken in places. Around him, the few remaining representatives argued about what to do next. "We should attempt to copy the, human weapons," said one. "We've tried. Their technology is too advanced and they took all the working examples with them," replied another. "Then we must evacuate to the farthest regions of the galaxy," suggested a third. "The hive will follow. There is nowhere to hide," said Zixtrell quietly. "Without humanity's shield, we are exposed. Some alien scientists attempted to create their own version of the void drive, hoping to follow humanity to Andromeda. They failed. The mathematics and physics involved were far beyond their understanding. The humans had developed the technology in secret over decades, and they had taken all knowledge of it with them. Near the edge of what had once been human space, automated observation stations continued to record everything. These silent watchers would transmit data back to humanity's new home, showing future generations what had become of the galaxy they left behind. On a Hive command ship, the Hive Queen received reports of humanity's departure. Even she understood the significance. Her multifaceted eyes blinked as she processed the information. For centuries, the Hive had been kept from expanding by human defense systems. Now those defenses were gone. Victory would be easier, but also less satisfying. The humans had been worthy opponents, the only species that truly challenged the Hive. Now they had simply chosen to leave, denying the Hive the honor of defeating them. In Andromeda, humanity began building its new civilization. The colony ships spread out to different star systems. Each carried the people and supplies needed to start fresh. Captain Ryan Peters oversaw the first landing on a planet they named Hope, after his ship. The world had blue skies, clean water, and fertile soil. It was perfect. "This will be our new Earth," he told the first group of colonists as they woke from stasis. "But this time, we will be alone, without the Confederation limiting what we can do." Scientist Alan Murphy and mathematician Heather Voss set up the first research center on Hope. The void drive had changed everything, opening up possibilities no one had imagined before. "We can travel between galaxies now," Alan said as they unpacked their equipment. "Think about what else we might discover without the Confederation holding us back." As the years passed, humanity thrived in Andromeda. Their new worlds had no restrictions, no alien neighbors telling them what they could or couldn't do. Human technology advanced even faster than before. New ships, new weapons, new ways of living, all developed freely. Sometimes they received data from the observation stations in the Milky Way. They watched as the Confederation crumbled and the hive expanded. Some humans felt sorrow for the aliens they had left behind. Others felt their fate was deserved. We offered them fair terms, President Greg Harper would remind everyone during memorials. They rejected them. The consequences were theirs to bear. 100 years after the Great Exodus, humanity had spread throughout their region of Andromeda. Dozens of worlds thrived under human control. Their civilization grew stronger than it had ever been in the Milky Way. The great-grandchildren of those who had made the journey learned about the Milky Way and the Confederation in history classes. They were taught an important lesson: never take protectors for granted. For in the end, the greatest punishment humanity could inflict on those who had dismissed them was simply to walk away and leave them to their fate. When humanity walked away, the galaxy knew its fate was sealed, and in Andromeda humanity found the freedom it had always deserved.